All right. First of all, thank you all for having me. I could have been in a lot of different places this morning, but I chose to be here because of the respect I have for your teacher as a person and as a teacher. First of all, what's the class range? What's the age range? All junior, seniors?
We're freshmen all the way to
Freshmen
seniors.
all the way. How many freshmen we have? Not in here, probably in
We
the
had
other
probably
groups.
4 absent today, so.
They must have known I was coming. Yeah, that's what it was. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm from Round County, lived here all my life, went to this high school over here. I was the first freshman class. That's how old I am. The first freshman class to graduate from this high school. Started it here in January of '83 is when the school opened, and I graduated in '86. I had a really good time when I was in high school. We didn't have this program then, so I was active in other things. I played football. My father was a basketball coach throughout the time I was there. He was Coach Evans was a couple years behind me, and he was active as well, so I knew him a little bit. But mainly I played football, and I studied to go on to college. There were some lessons. There were some opportunities over here I wish I'd taken. I really wish I'd taken auto mechanics. I wish I'd taken some basic stuff like that. So if you're not taking those classes, and you have some openings in your schedule coming up, either your next year or whenever, I would highly encourage you to do that. Those are things that you can never, ever, ever, ever not use, or things like that. But my father is from here. He graduated from here in '61. My mother graduated here in '63. I graduated here in '86. My brother graduated here in '90. So you can say that we're a Viking family. Have been forever. My dad was a coach for years and years and years. And then my brother played football after I did, and he went on to become a police officer. He was with the sheriff's office, the Morehead City Police, and ended up retiring as the assistant chief of police in Morehead State. Then decided to have a baby at age 50. So now he's back working at Morehead State, and just started a new job actually with the U.S. Forestry. So my mother worked for, how many people heard of St. Clair Hospital? Pretty much all of us? All right. People say, now St. Clair, I've read in the Bible, and I don't know if there's any Clair saints in the Bible or not. Well, St. Clair was named after a little short doctor about this tall. Her name was Claire Louise Cobb, and she had an office downtown, and she was the hospital for years. My mother worked for her. I was delivered by her as a doctor. So she's the main reason we have St. Clair Hospital. So that's why it's called St. Clair. I tell you that because my mother worked for her. My father worked for the school system. My brother worked for the city. I worked for the city. So our family has always had a servant mentality. In other words, be a leader and be a servant leader. You guys do that a lot, and gals. I know you all do. You volunteer, right? And have different things you do. That's one of the best things you can ever do, is be a servant leader. And that's one thing that I'm proud of. So, not boring you even more with that, I went to Morehead State, graduated from Morehead State, where my father graduated, where my mother graduated. My brother didn't graduate, but put enough time in as a police officer, I guess he's officially graduated. So I went from there, decided I wanted to go to law school. Went to law school at Chase College of Law, which is NKU now, Northern Kentucky University. I graduated there in '93 and decided I don't want to be an attorney. So I thought, well, what can I do with my law degree? And I've always enjoyed coming and speaking to young people. I was a young person myself. If it wasn't for people who came and spoke to me, who taught me, who coached me, who molded me, I wouldn't have an opportunity that I had. So I started working with young folks. I was youth service center coordinator at the middle school before Coach Evans. I was the programs director at the city park. I ran all of the athletic programs. Then I got a crazy idea to run for mayor, and I was mayor from 15 to 18, and then city council from 20 until now. And I just recently stepped down from city council because my life is, I do too many things. So that's not your problem, that's my problem. But you can do too many things, so you have to stay focused on something and keep going. My focus now is with a company called Ragent, okay? I went to law school. I never thought I would ever work for a company that is a tech company. Anybody ever heard of Ragent before today? You have? How have you heard about it?
For the 4th of July, or not 4th of July.
Did you go out to the thing?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Did you have a good time? All right. That's awesome. Let me tell you about Ragent. We all know, none of you here were alive when 9/11 happened, obviously. Thank goodness, because that was a terrible day. But we've all heard about it, right? 9/11, one of the worst days, the worst attack on the domestic soil in the United States in history. I had a good friend of mine who was, I went to school with, who was working in one of the Twin Towers, was on his way to work that day, got close to where he parks, realized he forgot something, went back home, and on his way back, he saw the towers fall, and people he worked with died. And so it goes to show you how, life is precious. The people, the nearly 4,000 people that died that day, they didn't get up that day thinking this is going to be the last day I'm alive. I mean, who's going to attack me in a building, right? I'm the tallest buildings in the world at the time. But they were taken down by terrorists. And when they were taken down, how Ragent comes into this, Ragent was literally built from 9/11. When 9/11 happened, for those of you who you're obviously, you can only see videos and movies and pictures of the Twin Towers, but all of the main antennas from Manhattan and that area were on top of the Twin Towers. So when they fell, there was zero communication in what they call ground zero around the area where the towers fell for months, okay? Think about that. We have the most sophisticated radar, sonar, radios, than anybody in the world. But for 2 months, if this young lady worked for the Port Authority, which basically is the security for the whole port there, because that is a port around Manhattan where 9/11 was, and he works for the fire department, and I work in the mayor's office. If she wanted to get a message to him to get to me, how do you think she did it? How would you normally do it? If you want to tell him something, he worked in a different office and I worked in a different, how would you normally do it? Pick up the phone, phones are out. Okay, you guys and gals are familiar with military operations and things. So if the phone's out, then what will you try? Radios are out. What else? You would write a note to him. He would ride his bicycle to the fire department. The fire department would read the note, write it back to him. He would write it to me, to the mayor's office. A lot of people don't know that. That's how bad it was. That's how vulnerable we were, that people don't know that. So my company that I work for, they literally, we're just celebrating starting our 21st year, our 22nd year, which means, if you do the math, 2001 is when 9/11 happened. They had a telecommunications company that basically had cable and different things that they would do commercial for the residents there in that area. So when the towers went down, they lost all their stuff. Well, they had friends who worked for the police department, Port Authority, fire department, whatever, and they kept complaining, we have no service. Well, not only when the towers came down, you didn't have signals, but think about this. Okay, we're in a block building right now. Probably a lot of times, different places in this building, you have trouble getting service on your cell phone. Imagine if this building was 100 feet high and just in row everywhere. So that's called RF interference, radio frequency, okay? You can't get it anywhere. So our company decided we got to do something so if this happens again, our first responders won't be blind. So they took the telecommunications, the technology they had, and they worked for 3 or 4 years, invested a lot of money, and they came up with what's called wireless kinetic mesh. All right? You don't have to remember that, but that's our secret sauce and what we do. In other words, everybody has Wi-Fi in their house, pretty much a router. Pretty much, okay. Think about it this way. Traditional Wi-Fi is like a tightrope. It's like a Christmas tree lights. How many of us have put up Christmas tree lights with our parents and we're so happy and it looks so good? We step back to take the picture and one light goes out and what happens to all the lights? You don't You got to go through and figure out which freaking light went out to make it right? That's traditional wireless. Traditional wireless has slaves, they call them, and nodes, and the masters. The master is the controller unit, and it controls and tells what, like this morning here, you have a wireless, you have the main unit here, you'll have nodes, how they are around here. If one of them goes down, we're out. Our technology, because each one of those are a single point of failure. Does that make sense? One of the nodes goes out, breaks the chain. Master goes out, can't send a signal. There is no chain. So it's like a tightrope that gets broken. Ours is what's called kinetic mesh. Imagine, I'll show you on here an illustration in a minute to make it more illustrative so you can tell. But imagine this. All of our radios have at least 2 frequencies. So if this is one of our radios, it has a 2.4, say, or in a 5.8. All right? And all the other radios, if you all had radios, it would have a 2.4 and a 5.8, for example. That's a frequency. And I turn the button on, and we all link to each other, and it forms this. So if hers goes down, okay, we have this. If his goes down, we have this. You see what I'm saying? So it doesn't break. It doesn't break the chain. As long as you have 3 radios going, you're going to have a mesh. Well, that came into play with the police department. They thought, that's great. We'll use this. But what happened immediately after 9/11? What did the world turn to? The Middle East conflict. It turns quickly from the police on the ground in New York City to we got to go find the bad guys. This is where it gets kind of interesting when you think about the daily things that we do. All of us have a car that has a key fob, pretty much. You ever have a car that has a key fob? How many of you at home have garage door openers? All right, this is going to sound silly, but play along with me. And we all have this. A garage door opener they all emit radio frequencies. L frequencies, low level radio frequencies. What that means is I don't have to push this, and this is transmitting right now. Okay? I don't have to push this. This is transmitting right now. This is transmitting. Garage doors, if it's got a battery in it and if the battery's good, it's transmitting whether you push the button or not. Why that's important is, a lot of you don't remember, but during the early stages of, and you weren't alive at the time, but during the early stages of the Middle East campaign, you would have a troop transport going down through either Afghanistan or areas in Iraq, and they had what's called IEDs. Anybody know what IED is? You ever heard of that? There you go. Save these old arms. What's an IED? Say it louder. They can't hear. An IED is an improvised explosive device. What that means is, if God forbid these two ladies here are our hot shot recon team, and they're on this truck, and I can't get to them enough with my guns, and I'm the enemy, then I will take a cup of coffee, I'll put C4 in it, I'll set it beside the road. When the ladies come by close enough, blows the truck up, kills them. Okay, I didn't use a missile, I didn't use a gun, I didn't use a bazooka. I used what's called an improvised explosive device. It could be a cup of coffee with C4. It could be 4 grenades tied together. It could be a igloo cooler full of diesel fuel with a fuse that if you spark it, it will blow anything. So in the early days, Coach Evans can remember watching it on TV like I did. In the early days, we were losing hundreds and thousands of men and women that were being destroyed by IEDs. Okay. The military at the time, and still now, had the most advanced LiDAR, sonar, radar. We could detect anything. What we couldn't detect were these. So Ragent took our technology and they went in with the military. The military hired us, and it's now been declassified. There was a program called Operation Wolfhound. Now, some of you ever read some of the old English books like Hound of the Baskervilles or anything like that? Sherlock Holmes, anybody read that? Probably not. But the wolfhound, you have dogs that sit at home and bark and protect your flock, right? Then you have the wolfhounds. They go and hunt the wolves. These are the bad boys you don't mess with, you know? So they had what's called Project Wolfhound. These two ladies, this young man were soldiers. They would put our radios on their back, they would put an antenna up, they would start a mile out, and they would walk and triangulate a major path of our vehicles with the radar, and all of a sudden, somewhere 100 yards away, they pick this up. She then would call it in, take a laser, and they'd blow that person up. That was so successful that at the time, before they started using our program, our radios, that the only thing they could do, how many people have seen the great big tank thing the city has? Y'all seen it in parades, whatever? That's called an MRAP, okay? That was designed solely for one reason only, to transport troops along lines where there was IED activity. If you ever get a chance, go look at that thing. It's got reinforced steel on the bottom. The bottom of it is not flat like most vehicles. It's like this, so if it runs over an IED, it dissipates the damage, okay? It's this high to get in. Most vehicles are this high. It's this high to protect the troops. It's got bulletproof glass that's thick. It's that thick. It's got tires on it that I think they're 80 lug nuts to change the tire. It's got an exhaust this high. I can't hardly reach it. It's like 6.5 foot. So we'll go through water up to this high. $800,000 each. Imagine the payment plan on that bad boy. You know, I've only got 14,000 more payments and that baby's mine, you know. So they built that exclusively for transporting troops on high IED territories. Well, combined with the Ragent technology, slowly but surely, IED deaths and attacks went away. Because if you're living in Baghdad or you're living in parts of Afghanistan where there's no garages, none, why do you need a garage door opener? This is the early 2s. If your car you're driving is a 1995 Toyota or something and you're living in that area part of the world that doesn't have a fob, why do you need a key fob? You see? So that was their, so eventually, because of Ragent and some other things, that problem went away. It's still there, but it went way less. Well, guess what? At the time, they stopped making MRAPs, the big tank thing. And I'll come back to that and remind me to come back to that in a minute. So they sent all those to Fort Hood, Texas to be redeployed somewhere. All right, so Ragent then continues to what they do. Then they got really big into mining. Mining is, think about one of the toughest industries you can be in. Go underground for a mile and try to mine and try to communicate. I mean, it's hard to go around a corner in a brick building. Imagine going down a mile in the ground and trying to communicate with Ragent's technology. Because of the mesh technology, we have mines. We're in 80 mines across the world. We're in 80 countries across the world. We're in over 300 mines across the world. One of them is in South America. It runs 500 vehicles, 500, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with our radio. One guy's running it off his phone. That's how unique our technology, and I'll get into some of that in a minute. So it slowly evolved, and then Ragent now, we're a $70 million company. We're in 85 countries, 300 mines. We do, I'll tell you something else that's really cool we do in the military. The military is a third of what we do, mining is a third of what we do, and the rest of it is anything you can think of. Police, ports, way out in the ocean, you have the big oil rigs. We put radios on that. We do drone. We make radios and drones. The radios specifically for drones and robots. Anybody ever seen the Boston Dynamics robot dog called Spot? Have you ever seen that? It's really cool. We make the radio that goes in the top of head that he communicates with other radios. They're one of our partners, which is really cool. But anyway, so as we keep building towards that, then I was mayor in 2015, and I heard of this company. As a mayor, one of the things you try to do besides the everyday running of the city and making sure people are safe and roads are paved and cleaned and fire trucks are up to date and all the things you do, garbage, you try to attract companies to your community to help your community be stronger, and also give people like you all who decide maybe you want to go into this type of tech work, give you opportunities. But because before Ragent came in 2000 and we've actually been open almost a little over 7 years. In 2016, we have the Space and Science Center on campus. Has anybody ever been to the Space and Science Center as a tour or anything? Pretty cool, right? Do you realize that we have the only non-NASA installation of the Deep Space Network? Okay, it's setting up on the hill. Our students, our undergrads up there, have made over 10 or 15, maybe it's 12 now, 12 I think. 12 satellite CubeSats about this size that have gone into space. It's amazing, as an undergrad. So I met with the president then, at the time, President Andrews. Walter Blevins was a judge exec, Rocky Atkins was a state rep, Governor Bashir's father, I believe, was the end of his year. He was the governor. We all met. Congressman Hal Rogers met, said we need to bring Ragent to Moorhead to help give opportunities. So Ragent came to Moorhead, opened up an office up there by the college where the laundromat is, where the Family Dollar is, big long building. We were up there for 4 years, and then we moved, or 5 years, and then we bought the great big blue building out at the industrial park, out on the 133 exit, and now we're there, been there for almost 3 years. So the first few people that they hired were students who were graduates of the Space and Science program. And while that's important, I'm going to show you a video here of one of our guys who's from Robertson County, one of the smallest counties we have. He just took a class in college as an elective, I think it was. It might have been a senior high school. I'll play it here in a minute. And next thing you know, he's now one of our main guys who works for us, and he didn't have to leave his area. Because when you graduated from the Space and Science program before Ragent, if you were a sharp cat and you were one of the best and brightest, you only had 4 places you could go. California, Texas, Colorado, and Florida. That's it. You go to the NASA Jet Propulsion Lab, go work for NASA, go out and work for one of the tech companies in California, or work for a NASA subsidiary in Florida. So, you know, if you all got a great job, that'd be cool, but would you want to leave? Would you want to leave your home, or would you like to stay here and make good money? Well, yeah, most people would. So I'll play that in a second. But what were you going to remind me of? MRAP. All right, so I, as mayor, after we had brought Ragent in, I got a phone call from my chief of police, who is Derek Blevins. And Derek said, Mr. Mayor, how would you like to have an MRAP? I said, an MRAP? What are you talking about? He said, you know that great big tank thing that they have that goes out and hunts IEDs? I said, yeah. He said, they're $800,000. I said, well, the city of Moorhead can't pay $800,000 for an MRAP. Are you crazy? He said, yeah, but they don't use them anymore. They shipped them all to Fort Hood, Texas. We can buy one from Moorhead for $3,000. An $800,000 tank we can build for $3,000. Now they take all the ballistics off of it. There's no guns on it. They took out the bulletproof glass, different things like that. There's nothing on it that would be considered ballistic. And so I said, are you kidding? He said, that's how much it costs to ship it up here on a train. So I said, okay, let's do it. So we paid $3,000, moved that up here, and people said, what are you doing that for? You're militarizing the police. You're going to threaten everybody. I said, no, there may be a time we can use it. What people didn't remember was 2 months before that, we had a deputy sheriff. I think at one time he worked here at the high school, maybe one time as a resource officer, Baker Hollis. Baker Hollis went on a call out to Cranston, way out in Cranston. Where's Lake Luna? What's that road?
Is it Holly Fork?
No, what is it off of Cranston that goes up to Lake Luna area? Anyway, Island Fork.
Fork.
This guy who had been mentally disturbed, he'd been in I think he had been actually a psychiatric patient at one time. He was a conspiracy theorist. So he was way back up in the hollow with his girlfriend and his girlfriend's mom. This is about a month before we got the MRAP. He calls the police. He said, "I'm going to kill my girlfriend and I'm going to kill her mother if you don't promise to do something, some crazy, literally crazy, something you hear like you see on TV." So we thought, well, whatever. But we got to go check it out because this guy's called in before. He said stupid things, right? So they sent one person, Baker Hollis. So Baker goes. Baker's probably in number 4, and the guy is probably back there at the locker. He gets to the tree. Guy opens up on him with an fully automatic AK-47. Shreds the tree, shoots him in the hand. He goes down behind the tree and calls for help. Well, what are you going to bring in there? You can't bring a police car to help him. He'll riddle that. So we finally got an ambulance and a fire truck, and the guy kept saying he's not going to surrender. And not going to take him alive, so we backed off. He kills his girlfriend, kills his girlfriend's mother, shoots himself, and at the same time ignites a incendiary device that blows up. I forget how many thousand rounds blows the house up. Bullets go everywhere. Luckily, our guy was back behind the fire truck. So wouldn't have been nice to roll that boy down in there and safe. Luckily, it wasn't life-threatening. He had surgery, but shot a hole through his wrist. So you don't ever hope to have those incidents and say, "I told you so." We don't want that. But that happened before that. And sure enough, after we got the MRAP in, they criticized myself, they criticized the city council. And then 3 weeks later, we had a flood up Haldeman. And there was a family of 4 that was in a Chevette, and they got washed into a ditch, and they couldn't get out. So they took the MRAP, they backed it up, lowered the thing, they got right back on it, walked out, and nobody was safe. And from there, "Hey, I'm glad we've got that." It's funny how that happened. So that's how we ended up with MRAP. Ironically, because of which company helped reduce the IEDs. This company, and we ended up bringing them here. So it's kind of a weird thing. So that's enough talking about that. That's what Ragent does. My job with Ragent, I took a job almost 5 years ago as a shipping clerk. And because it was such a good company, I followed the company, and we were shipping out a radio that, do you all remember 2 August ago when the United States decided to pull out and evacuate from Afghanistan? Remember that? And it showed terrible images of people hanging on airplanes and falling out. Remember all that craziness at the airport? Okay. There's a program within the military. It's all branches, but it started with the Army. It's called CRAM. Okay? CRAM. Counter, Rocket, Artillery, and Mortar. And the best way to describe it is, if you watch movies and you see a movie with an Army movie, military movie, whatever. No, that's close. These are the big, giant miniguns. They call them Felix guns. Anytime we're on a forward operating base and an enemy shoots in an ordnance, it goes and shoots it down. We make the radios that run those guns in Moorhead, Kentucky. It's called the Huntsman radio. The Huntsman is named after, if you notice our terminology, the wolfhound. We go hunt down the bad guy.
10 minutes, about 10 minutes.
10 minutes, we're gone. The Huntsman is named after the spider in Australia that won't fit on this desk. There's spiders as big as this desk in Australia that hunt chipmunks, snakes, and that's what it's named after. So the reason that's important, I was working there, I had shipped a lot of those out. And the commander of the forces in Afghanistan wrote a letter to our CEO. And he passed a letter to us and said, you know, Mr. Scaler, please tell your employees that what you do every day is making America safer. But what you did for us during the Afghanistan evacuation, something. Not only did they save American soldiers' lives, they saved American lives, and not one missile got through because of the CRAN program. So tell your people, me, law degree, tell your people that work here, you saved American lives. That is cool. So, all right. Think of some questions. I want to show you a couple of videos real quick. And one of the guys is Chris. Let me get this thing here. Name's Chris Graves. What did that leave? All right.
Just put, there you go.
There we go. Yeah. What's it doing?
It's on search with Google.
Yeah, I keep trying to get it. There we go. Pardon my fat fingers. It'd be nice if I could spell my own company's name, wouldn't it? I'm gonna have to go back to the old chicken pecking here.
Think about that job didn't exist when he was in college. It's like your all's jobs don't exist now because of AI is going to change everything. Technology changes so fast every 18 months. This job wasn't even around when Mr. Trent was in college or anything like that.
It's about 4 minutes. Watch another short one, and then I'll